It's another lovely time out on the program Truth to Power. And like you know, the program Truth to Power is a program that is designed to extray minority groups, communities, and of course, oppressed groups in Nigeria. But most importantly, we speak truth to power in the course of the program. My name is Ehis Adbon. Today on the program, we will be looking at the not too long ago bombing that happened somewhere in Kaduna State, north central Nigeria. That's Tudun Biri specifically. Tudun Biri is in one of the counties, that's the Igabi County or local government area in Kaduna State, Nigeria. And the bombing, which was carried out by the military, was occasioned by the fact that they were on the trails of some kidnappers, terrorists that were coming all the way from Zamfara, somewhere around Zamfara State, northwest Nigeria, all towards Kaduna, and eventually there was sort of like a congregation in the trail of the path. All of this information is based on the information provided by the defense headquarters, and it was at that point that the warhead was deployed on the group of persons, which, from information reaching us, was said to be a fire that shouldn't have happened. And as a result of that, many of the persons involved, especially in the military high command, have been on fire, starting from the chief of defense staff and the COAS. They have all been under fire, and sadly insinuations of religious coloration taking the day, which is very, very sad and unfortunate. In that, in recent times, I would say the military in Nigeria have been trying their best to curtail and bring the spate of terrorist attack, bandit attacks, and other Islamic militancy under control. And with that and the new coloration and dimension that is taken, will this not demoralize our military? How is this going to help in curtailing the security challenges that Nigeria is presently facing? That would be the general discussion that I'll be having today. But specifically, the ethnic coloration that the propaganda against the chief of defense staff and other persons that are in the corridors of managing our security is very, very worrisome and worrying. Today with me on the program, I have two gentlemen joining me on Truth to Power today. I have a veteran journalist, a publisher, and of course an ex-serviceman in the person of Elder Mordecai Ibrahim, joining us on the program. Elder Mordecai, you are welcome to Truth to Power again.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure.
All right. I also have with me a journalist and a crisis and conflict reporter in the person of Mike Ode Akatu. Mike, you are welcome to Truth to Power.
Thank you very much, Big Bros Ahis, Elder Mordecai. Thanks for having me.
All right. Having had the issues I'll be looking at today, I'll first of all want Mike Ode Akatu to give us a general overview of what happened, because I know you have been following that story and reporting that story before we now come to Elder Mordecai to also look at it from the angle of an ex-serviceman primarily, then secondly, the angle of a community leader, and one that is very, very vast with information around it. So we'll start from Michael Deaka to give us an overview of all that happened up to the point that we are today.
All right. So what really happened was about 3 weeks ago, there was this intelligence report that terrorists were moving from a village around Zamfara to a settlement in Igabi local government to Tudun Biri local government. Now, if you know this area called Tudun Biri in Igabi, if you are in Kaduna, you are in Zari, you are in Kaduna, you are in Katsina, and you are in Zamfara. That axis, Igabi, Giwa, and parts of Kebi part of Katsina and part of Zamfara. They are interlinked. Terrorists can move from that place, from these areas to other areas within the states. That means terrorists can move from Katsina down to Kaduna, move again from Kaduna to Zamfara. These areas, they are linked. And the terrorists, they have free range. The terrorists move and they can move and they move freely. I'll give you an example. If you look at the Birnungwari Aziz, the Ansaru Islamic group, jihadi group that we know about, move freely in Birnungwari. They preach, they marry, and they even go to visit people, they are converts in Birnungwari. If you look at that one in Niger State, again, Dogo Jide married a Christian and was telling the community members, the residents of that community, says, look, don't be afraid of me, come around me. I am married from your community so that you can feel free. And the people are mingling. The chairman of Birnungwari People's Emirate Union, Kasai Usman, told me that the terrorists are always mingling with the residents of the communities. The same thing is applicable when you are going to Igabi, as if you are going to, when you are going to Giwa, as if you are going towards Bakori or Katsina in Katsina State. Once you pass some local government, you see the terrorists are moving around freely with gun on their shoulders. I had been able to go with the reporter of Leadership newspaper, the Hausa reporter, Abdullahi, and we could not spend, we wanted to spend about 4 hours in his village in Katsina, but because of the way the bandits were moving, the bandits have free rein. We had to cut short our visits. Now, back to what we are saying. 3 weeks ago, there was an intelligence report that bandits are moving from Katsina or from Zamfara towards Tudun Biri. And incidentally, these people also said they were having their Molud. And in the course of monitoring them, the military, especially the army actually, now executed a strike against them, killing a number of the militants as well as a number of members of the community. And the army, like what used to happen in the past, if there is a mishap, the military will keep quiet or they will remain mute. At times they will deny. But this time around, the military came out to say yes, there was a mishap. We're in pursuit of some bandits. We were able to shoot them down, but unfortunately, there was also an unintended consequences. What are the consequences? Some of the residents of that area were killed. That place is actually called Lagerma. It extends from Zamfara to Igabi in Kaduna, and some of them were killed. Now, what transpired later became a source of anger. People started getting angry that Muslims have been killed, worshippers have been killed, and so on and so forth. Since then, all the politicians that that are living in the north, that are Muslims, have visited Tudun Biri. And all the things they will say is, let there be inquiry, let there be punishment. First of all, if there is a mishap in your community or where you are working today, if there is a problem, you will always set up query. You always set up a committee. Nobody need you to tell you to set up a committee. You have to set up a committee to find out what is happening. But all the politicians, and I've counted more than 50, 60, Ariwa Consultative Forum, this and that, even Khan, our own Khan too was there. Peter Obi was there. A lot of them saying, set up committee. Even the president too, set up committee, and these people will be severely punished. And one thing that I told myself when I was looking at it, the army owned up that there was a mishap, and they pledged that there was going to be an inquiry, and they pledged also that they are going to rectify the situation. Again, Islamically and even in Christendom, if you commit an offense, especially murder, and you agree that, look, I have committed this offense and I did it innocently, what happens? If the community or the person that the offense is committed against agrees to forgive you, you pay reparation and the matter dies. That in Islam, it is called diya. I'm sure in Christianity, it's called restitution. So, and the community in question has actually agreed to compensation. All of a sudden, one other group took the army and the federal government to court for 2-point-something billion, and the spokesman of the community said, we are not aware. You understand? Now, Professor Usman, Professor Usman, the other man that had accompanied Sheguni to several camps, was the first person that raised the kit. He said it was like Israel. It was like what Israel is doing in Gaza by killing those people. And people do not want to really listen to the side of the army. The army is saying that, look, we have an intelligence and we pursued these people to an extent and we shot at them. And unfortunately, people died. Now, there are certain questions. The bandits were killed. And what were the bandits doing, mingling or going towards that place? Is it that they want to go and commemorate? Is it that they want to go and celebrate with the people? Were they invited or were they dodging? And you understand, have the people also informed the army that, look, we are going to hold such celebration? Because in war situation, in an operation like in a theater, a war theater like this, anything you want to do, you inform the army or the security agencies that this is what we are going to do, this is what we are going to do, this is what we are about to do. Are you getting it? So the fact in Nigeria, northwest Nigeria, especially Kaduna, has been turned to a maker of salt. Every now and then we are hearing a politician will visit the chief of staff, this, that, and then they are all calling for either the sack of General Agbaja, the sack of General Christopher Musa, and a stiff penalty, as if they have an inside, information that it was General Agbaja or the chief of defense staff, that is Christopher Musa, that really ordered the attack. I don't know. But one thing I know is it's much of campaign, smear campaign. It is no more it is no more visit of sympathy, empathy, or commiseration, but real smear campaign. Let us give these people a bad name to hang it. That is what is happening.
All right, thank you so very much, Mike, for that. Now, still looking at the smear campaign that's been going on, and the tone that is taken is becoming extremely very worrisome. Worrisome in the fact that comments coming from some of our opinion leaders and community leaders, former governors, former ministers, former this and former that are opinion leaders from one part of the country targeted at just the chief of defense staff, wanting him to be removed at all costs. Does that not still want to trip someone in the same direction of all that's been happening in the system? Well, that's just by the way. Let me come now to Elder Mordecai. Apart from the fact that he is an ex-serviceman, he's also one that is a community leader and extremely close to the community and in the know of all of this, and of course a publisher and veteran journalist. Elder Mordecai, all of this and what has been happening, how does it resonate with you?
Once again, thank you very much for inviting me to the program. I want to say congratulations to our brother Mike Ode for giving us a beautiful background of what happened. Having said that, I would also want to use the opportunity to condole with the families of those who lost their lives at that unfortunate incident. Now, having said all this, the first statement I want to make is that people should understand that the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Navy, in short, the Nigerian Armed Forces and the paramilitary are paid and established to protect citizens. And no sane military or armed forces or commander will use taxpayers' money to go and kill the people he is paid to protect. We must establish that. 2, this is not the first time we are having such incidences happening in Nigeria. It is a settled fact that we have had this kind of incidents more than 7 times in Nigeria. I have lost the count of how many times it happened during President Muhammadu Buhari. What scenarios than this? But nobody, all these people that have been coming to Kaduna State to demand for probe and for sack of the service chiefs did not say anything that time. None of them could raise a voice. Was it because President Muhammadu Buhari was a Muslim and a northerner? Is it because President Bola Tinubu is a Yoruba man? Is it because General Christopher Musa is a Christian and from a minority tribe? Is it because General Lakpaja is a Yoruba man and not from the north? I think it is enough. We stop all these religious sentiments happening within our polity and the country. It will blow us no good wind. I want to say the fact, like Mike Ode said, we all know that in the last 10 or more years, Nigeria has become a theater of war or war theater, depending on how you want to put it. It is shameful that Professor Suleiman, the former executive secretary of NHIS, is at the vanguard of asking for the removal of the CDS and probably the chief of army staff. But I want to commend President Tinubu, whom I believe over the years has had a good understanding of military working and has ignored him. This is the same Professor Suleiman that followed Dr. Sheikh Gumi. They went into the bushes and they saw these terrorists. Is it not even a crime for me as a Nigerian to know where a terrorist is staying and I will not tell the government? Is it not a crime? Am I not aiding and abetting them? And they tell you they want reconciliation. How do you reconcile with a terrorist? Where in the world have you seen reconciliation with a terrorist? Haven't made that submission. I also want to say that it is impossible, and I say again, impossible for any war such as what we are having to be prosecuted and successfully executed without having some certain number of casualties. It is not possible. These Nigerian soldiers or armed forces are not angels, for crying out loud. They are human beings like us. More so, the reports available or at our disposal or in public domain says that event took place in the night. How do you expect the soldiers to be able to decipher or to separate what do you call them, terrorists from innocent citizens? Like Mike has said, these people have, the army owned up, the army would have continued to say, they don't know. And it would be the words of the accusers against the words of the army. Yes, Air Force said they didn't do anything. Yes, we also know that these terrorists are carrying high-grade weapons. Is it not in this country that they shot down an aircraft? If I'm not mistaken, it's what, 2022 or 2021. They shot down an aircraft. Any group of people that can have weapons to bring down a flying aircraft, you know the magnitude of their danger. So let me quickly say that if there is anything to be done, I would, for now, I have always believed this thing about former Governor El-Rufai. That was one thing he said that I will continue to support until I go to my grave. He said the entire area should be bombed and cleared. They should send warning. Innocent citizens should leave the place, and then they will go and clear them, because these terrorists will not come into town. Like Mike just said. Can you imagine? They marry even Christian girls, and they leave, and they are asking people to come and to relate with them, to mingle with them. Why will they mingle with them? The issue is that the people also in those communities in Tudun Biri did not help themselves, because they know these terrorists. If I know a criminal, I know an armed robber, I know a terrorist, it is my responsibility. In fact, let me start with moral responsibility. It is my moral responsibility to expose him. As a Christian, my Bible also tells me it is my responsibility to expose evil. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11 and verse 12 says, have nothing to do with the unfruitful works of darkness. Instead, expose them. So it is our duty as citizens to help the armed forces in clearing this nation of terrorists. Don't forget, most of these soldiers, they have been separated from their families for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, some 6 months. In fact, I understand some for 1 year. I served in the army for 20 years. I had the privilege of being in Lebanon, 1982. I had the privilege of being in Liberia, 1990. I had the privilege of being in Yugoslavia, 1994. I know what war is. There was never a time during those periods that I had to be away for a total of 1 year, except when I went. Even Yugoslavia would not spend 1 year there. Liberia wouldn't spend 1 year there. But because the war situation in Nigeria is so inundating, it has now overwhelmed our military. What is the number of soldiers we have in the armed forces? What is the number of soldiers we have in the Air Force and the Navy? You will find that if you travel between Kaduna and Kachia now, you see naval personnel performing pure infantry duties, which is very rare. What I mean infantry duties, I mean in the ground. That tells you the kind of shortage of personnel we have. And for 8 years that President Muhammadu Buhari was in power, a retired general, how many soldiers did he approve to be recruited for those 8 years? So does that not go to affect the morale of the soldiers? You are in the war front. You don't know what is happening to your family. You don't know what is happening to your home. Sometimes even feeding is a problem for them. Do you know what they eat? I'm not talking about all this. I mean soldier. I'm talking about both men, officers, and men. I thought Nigerians should be supporting and congratulating these our soldiers for the kind of sacrifices they are making to keep Nigeria at peace.
All right.
But when we begin to go about castigating them, casting aspersions at them, insulting them, and saying all manner of words against them, it is demoralizing. But let me quickly say, before I draw a conclusion here, so that my brother can come in, that from the day he was appointed, General Christopher Gobwin Musa, we had all the cries. I have more than 8 different videos of several Islamic clerics that came out to condemn his appointment, including this so-called, as far as I'm concerned, uneducated professor. I don't know who made him professor, Professor Suleiman. It is a disgrace that Nigerians can be asking that those soldiers should be slaughtered or they should be punished or what. The military has its own system of dealing with recalcitrant or indisciplined soldiers. The Nigerian military, if you don't know, is governed by the Armed Forces Decree as well as the Constitution. So you can see that if there's any group of Nigerians that are disciplined, it is in the military. You are so disciplined that you watch every step you take, because the Constitution, the Armed Forces Decree will not spare you. And the Constitution does not spare you either. For crying out loud, can we for once appreciate these people for the effort, for the sacrifices? Look, Any Nigerian who is not happy with what the soldiers are doing, let him go and engage these terrorists to come and guard him.
All right, thank you so very much, Mordecai. I'll come back to Mike Ode Akatu now. And the critical thing now is that with this campaign of calumny that's being carried out by some sector of people that unfortunately also identify with the tribe and religion of the terrorists and bandits, what do you think should be done now, or what message do you think should be the dominant message making the rounds so that one, we continue to increase the level of commitment of our military, we continue to boost their morale, and thirdly, we continue to build the bond and unity against this person that are trying to segregate them? Because I know that any platoon, brigade, or command of the military is a mix of everybody.
Let me tell you something. I was watching an American film yesterday. It's called I was watching the film, and his commanding officer asked him to call in air power against the North Koreans that were attacking. And in the process, he fed a coordinate, that he wrongly fed a coordinate, and it affected their own people, the Americans. And he was shocked. He stood there, he was frozen. Then his commanding officer said, "Son, you are keeping us alive. Do more of this thing. Move, let's go." Rather than berate him, and attack him, rather than condemn him, the officer encouraged him. We should know, like Elder Mordecai has said, these Nigerian soldiers, both Air Force, military, paramilitary, Navy, and the rest, have laid their lives on the ground so that you and I can be safe. And I'll give you two examples. Not far away from where I used to live, every night during the Buhari administration, we'll be hearing sound of guns, ka, 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 every night. That was when the Greenfield University's students were kidnapped. And when you call the army, they will not want to come. When you call the numbers, they will not want to come. But now that is not the case. The military we have today, under Lagbaja, under the Chief of Defense Staff, has risen to the occasion. I give you another example. When I come back from NUJ with my news story, and it says in those days under Buhari, and it says the military has neutralized 20 soldiers. When I show my kid, Martin Luther, who is just about 10 years now, he will tell me, "Daddy, did you see the corpse of those soldiers?" That was a question the young man put to me, the young boy put to me. Said, "Daddy, did you see the corpse of those soldiers? Of these militants that were killed?" I would say, "Well, I believe them." The other one would say, "Daddy, don't help them to propagate evil. Let's see the corpse." But now, under Lagbaja, under the Chief of Defense Staff, Musa, we are seeing the military killing these bandits. The military are taking the fight to them in the forest. I was speaking to the commander of Operation Hadari Daji, that is Captain Ibrahim Yaya. He told me that, "Look, we are undertaking military operation in 7 states in the northwest, and we are going to get Dogudi. We are going to get a lot of people." And he told us that, and I can see that he was doing that. Now, perhaps those people that are angling, that are calling for the punishment or for the dismissal of Musa, they are not happy with what is happening.
All right, Mike, we really do not have much time on our hands. Let's quickly round up now. Mike, round up so that I'll go to another car.
So my suggestion is this: we should encourage the military. What has happened has happened. Our commiseration lies with the people of Tudun Biri, but at the same time, the military too, we have to commend them and we have to urge them to move ahead. And then those people that are always taking a trip to Tudun Biri to raise ethnic and religious tension, such people should be queried. They should be investigated to see if they truly have the intention of one Nigeria at heart.
All right, Elder Mordecai, also quickly, react to that. These people that are carrying out this campaign of calumny, what should be done, and what do you think should be done to assuage all of this?
Well, I will quickly say that our military have done so many good works. How many times have these same Nigerians calling for the crucifixion of their leaders gave them some accolades? It is high time we begin to praise them for the best they have done so that they can do better than their best. Secondly, I want to say that the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army Staff, these are all Nigerians. Is it because the Chief of Defense Staff is from the minority, not a Christian? What did the people who are condemning them say concerning the Minister of Defense and the Minister of State for Defense? Nobody has called for their head. Is it not from them that they take orders? Having said that, I want to say that, honestly speaking, I am so proud of the performance of the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army Staff, so much that I feel as if I can go back and wear the uniform and join them so that we can quell these ragtag idiots called terrorists within record time. But let me say conclusively that Nigerians must know that these terrorists were brought in by politicians, by present-day politicians and leaders. And we should also realize that military efforts alone cannot do away with these terrorism. Government on its part must initiate programs and policies that will ensure that our youths that are being recruited to serve in these terrorist camps and groups will stop and have something to do. Military exercise, like I heard General Musa speak some few days ago, that they can only contribute 30%. Let me even correct him. 30% is too big a figure. Military can give you at best 20%. 30%, where do they have the might? Where do they have, with all these ungoverned areas we have, with the limited soldiers we have, where will he be able to give 30%?
All right,
so the truth of the matter is that good governance, obedience to rule of law will always produce good environment. When the criminals are arrested and they are tried within record period, they will be able, everybody will know that, look, Nigeria is not a place for you to go to and misbehave. But you see, there are these terrorists that have been in prison for upward of 8 years, 10 years, and some of them are even released and they go back, or some of them, they say they give them, what do you call them? I've forgotten that.
Amnesty.
And they release them. Look, Nigeria should better be serious. Our leaders should better be serious. These, our generals, they are trained generals, they are time-tested generals. They did not, you don't become a general by drinking tea and coffee.
All right, and I will have to go now. We are really out of time now. I want to sincerely appreciate Elder Mordecai for having time to be on Truth to Power today. Thank you so very much, sir.
You're welcome.
And also to Mike Odeaka too. I sincerely appreciate you for having time to be on the program. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, Truth to Power is a program where we shine our torchlight on minority persecuted groups in Nigeria and try our best to tell their stories while putting truth to power. And today, like you've heard, what has happened. We commiserate to the people of Tudun Biri, but we should not throw the baby away with the dirty bath water because of one mistake. It's not the first time it has happened severally. That's not to justify it. But we must say that indeed the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army Staff, they are trying their best and doing a beautiful job, because since their assumption, we can see positive result coming out of the fight against these insurgents and terrorists that are scattered all over Nigeria, most especially in northern Nigeria. Until next time, when we'll be on again for another package of the program, Truth to Power. I want to say, wherever you find yourself and whatever you do and wherever you are doing that, remember to always speak truth to power.